This is the story of Amie Harwick. Our story begins on Valentine's Day of 2020. Now, Amie, who had previously been engaged to Drew Carey, the host of The Price is Right.
I'd like to introduce you to my brand new lovely fiance, Amie. How you doing?
Was found under her balcony at her Los Angeles home. The initial investigation showed that she was strangled and thrown from the balcony during a home invasion. And as police searched the house, they found a syringe on the balcony with a yellowish, brownish substance on it that would later be tested as a lethal dose of pure nicotine. This seems like a Dexter type of thing here. I would not have ever guessed that something like that would have happened in real life. But we'll see. So we'll talk more about that in a moment. We'll come back to that mysterious syringe. Amie was transported to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, and unfortunately she was pronounced dead at 3:26 in the morning. So Amie, who was 38 years old when this crime took place, was a well-known therapist in Los Angeles, specializing in family and sex counseling. She had studied psychology at California State Polytechnic University, and she earned a Master of Arts degree from Pepperdine University in clinical psychology, as well as a PhD from a non-accredited institute for advanced study of human sexuality. She had also been an author. She wrote a book called The New Sex Bible for Women, a guide to sexual self-awareness and intimacy. And in the summer of 2017, that's when she and Drew Carey met. And they met at a party that they were at. Their relationship quickly sparked and they became engaged. However, their relationship didn't last for all that long because by 2018, they had separated. And Drew had said that this was a mutual separation that took place, and they still remained positive and cordial towards each other.
Even though we broke up the engagement, I was still so in love with her, and she loved me back. A beautiful person who didn't deserve to die like she did.
At the time of her death, Amie was working for Pineapple Support, which was an organization for sex work positive mental health professionals that was founded in 2017 in the wake of all the suicides that were taking place in the adult industry. Now, Amie had ties to the adult industry as she had worked for the adult industry when she was working through college and getting her degrees. And she remained in that industry in a positive way as a counselor. So let's take a look at the timeline of events that led up to Amie's death on the night of the murder. It started off like any ordinary day where Amie went to breakfast with a friend, Cleopatra Slew, at the Beechwood Cafe. And while she was there, Cleopatra said that she had been talking about how happy she was with her life, both professionally and personally, and she was so excited to see where things would take her in the future. So Amie had not expressed any concerns at that moment that anything was happening or would possibly happen. At 7 o'clock, she went to the Globe Theater with several of her friends to see a burlesque show that she was invited to with Miss Tosh, who was someone in the industry that Amie had been friends with. And
we called it a Valentine's Day for them. It was her and her two best friends. I put her front and center so that they could have a great view of the show. It was special having her there. They were having a blast. They were taking pictures and laughing and celebrating. We were all having such a great time.
At 9 o'clock, Michael Harmon, who was Amie's roommate, woke up to the sound of glass being broken. He didn't think too much of this as he thought this was Amie, who was in the kitchen, maybe dropping a dish or glass. And so he didn't really think anything of it, and he went back to sleep. 10 o'clock that night, Amie and several friends left the Globe Theater and went to the Nomad to have some tea. And around 1 o'clock, Amie arrives home. And she texts people that she's home and she's in the driveway and she would like pictures from the night that took place. Not long after that, Michael awakes again. This time he hears sounds of screaming and a struggle taking place. And he reported that he had made noises and whatnot to try to stop that. He would have called on his cell phone for help, but he was unable to find it. So Michael leaves and starts going to neighbors' houses around 1:08 in the morning trying to find help. Eventually, at 1:11 in the morning, he's able to find a neighbor who answers the door and they call help. for 911 to arrive.
I want emergency, Alberta 434.
Yeah, somebody just attacked my roommate. We're at 2086 Mound Street. Find anything.
Okay, how was he assaulted? What happened?
It's he. I don't know. I was downstairs. I heard screaming. Please get a cop here.
Okay, this is who's screaming inside?
I can't even speak right now. Amie Harwick.
I mean, who is she to you, sir?
She's my roommate.
Okay. And she's screaming for help?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see anything?
No.
Okay, so
No,
what
I
did you hear?
heard her screaming, and I heard her being...
All right, so I'm going to send out as somebody screaming, okay, since you didn't see anything. You don't know if she's being attacked,
Yeah.
you're not sure.
Yes, I know she's being attacked. I heard her got thrown to the ground.
2086. I think it's gonna be up here. Yeah, there. Hey, sir.
Hi.
How can I help you?
My roommate was attacked. I know it. I heard it. She's screaming. She was thrown to the ground. I couldn't find my phone. I couldn't find anything.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so you have access to here?
No.
Is there anybody else inside the house?
My roommate.
Just your roommate by herself?
Yes.
You didn't check on her?
Dude, I heard screaming. I don't know if that guy had a gun or a knife. I came running trying to... I couldn't find my phone.
Is there somebody else inside?
Yes. I think there's
Okay, sir,
somebody
do me a
else in
favor. Do me a favor. Calm down. Calm down. Other than your roommate, is there anybody else inside the
there.
house?
I don't know.
So you didn't see anyone? You just heard...
No, I just heard her screaming. It
Have you
sounded like
called-
she got thrown to the ground. I've been calling for her through his windows. Nobody's answering. Nothing.
So where's your key at?
Inside, downstairs, the back door's open.
Here, You're good. You good. 6815 advises the responding units that we had to hop the fence. We're going to be at the rear of the location. Sir, come here. Relax. Take a seat.
Oh my God.
We need to handle this.
What was going on tonight?
I was asleep. I've been asleep all night.
Hey, we need to, Bro, she's having a seizure. Oh, Jesus. Stay here. Listen to me. You need to relax.
Okay.
You're escalating the situation and you're making it worse for everybody. You need to calm down.
Okay.
Do you know if there's anybody else inside the house?
I don't. Oh my God.
Anyone else inside? This is the LAPD. Come out with your hands up.
And they do everything they can to stabilize her, and then they transport her to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. And she remains there until 3:26 when she is pronounced dead. So the crime that took place was very brutal. And unfortunately, when Amie returned home from the events, the killer had already been waiting for several hours in the home for Amie to arrive. She went up to her bedroom, and that's where she was ambushed around 1 o'clock in the morning. And there was a struggle, and during that struggle, she was strangled, and she was thrown off the third floor balcony. Now, when she landed, she did not land on a patch of grass or soft ground. She landed on a concrete patio area below, which contributed to some of her injuries. During the struggle, Amie's rosary that she had been wearing that night was found on the ground and ripped and damaged, and her jacket also was found. On the balcony itself, the mysterious yellowish brown liquid syringe was found. Now, it still had the cap on it, so it had not been taken off yet to be used, so it is not sure that the syringe was taken out of the pocket of the killer or if it had fallen out. However, Amie was not somebody who was using drugs. Her roommate did not use drugs, so it was quickly determined that that actually wasn't something that belonged to Amie. Very weird piece of evidence. And it's not something that would be common in any kind of thing. That is like something straight out of Dexter. You know, someone's going to capture someone, they inject them with something. Like, that is not a common theme. And also, when we find out who the suspect is, that is something that links directly to the suspect and is pretty damning evidence when they find out who our suspect is, which we'll talk more about in a moment. Hint, hint, it is not Michael C. Hall or Dexter. Sorry, guys. Spoiler alert. But let's get back to the story. So when EMS arrives, Amie is unconscious, but she is alive. They do rush her to the hospital. And so at the time, It really was only a home invasion case and like breaking and entering. But when Amie dies, it quickly becomes a homicide. And they also send off that syringe to be tested to figure out what that liquid is. Is it meth or fentanyl or some other drug? They don't know. This is not something that is common for the police to define. So let's get to our suspect list. So we have to start ruling out people around Amie. That's who you start with. You start with the innermost people and you work your way out until either you run out of suspects or leads or you find somebody. So of course Michael is talked to, but he is quickly ruled out, and he's ruled out for a number of reasons, but one of them being that his timeline and his events check out. He doesn't have any marks on him, his clothing isn't torn, and thanks to so many people having Ring cameras and surveillance systems, the timeline that Michael says actually checks out because he is seen on people's surveillance footage going to their houses trying to look for help. One of Amie's friends, Robert Koshland, is also at the police station being taken for questioning. And while he is there, he tells police that Amie said if she was to die or anything was to happen to her, they really should consider her ex Gareth Pursehouse. And Amie had sent text messages to friends and to herself and emails to herself stating how uncomfortable Gareth was making her and to be on the lookout if anything was to happen. So police look up who this Gareth Pursehouse is. Now Gareth actually was someone that Amie had dated many years ago and had a history with Amie of violence. So police quickly shift their eyes to Gareth and seeing where Gareth was, checking out his alibi. Is he someone that could have possibly done this years after they separated? So as police begin their investigation with Gareth as a new suspect, they continue looking at neighbors' footages of their Ring cameras and surveillance systems, and lo and behold, there is a man that looks similar to Gareth on many pieces of surveillance footage. He is hopping over fences, he is going through their backyards, and even at one point he puts his hand up to try to block the motion sensor part of the camera. So with that, they bring him in for questioning. And they also begin to search his house at that same time. They get a warrant and they start searching. And what do they find in his house but syringes and other similar types of liquids that were found in the syringe at Amie's house? Again, because this is not something that is normal, even if you are a diabetic, let's say, and you were giving yourself insulin shots, it is not normal to have this type of liquid and this syringe. And so that right there is pretty damning evidence for Gareth. That and the footage that matches, they arrest Gareth later that day. And when they arrest him, he is put under a $2 million bond. So we'll come back to that in a minute. But so how did Gareth and Amie meet? Gareth and Amie met at a party when she was in school working through her degree back in 2009. And they did date, and they dated for several years up until 2012. While they were dating, friends reported that Gareth was very possessive over her and the relationship was pretty abusive. At one point in May of 2011, Gareth had actually choked Amie, suffocated her, kicked her, punched her, and even pushed her to the ground and slammed her head into the ground. And Amie took out a restraining order against him, and the relationship did end in 2012. So right there we have a pattern of abuse. It gets worse. Gareth, after the breakup, had texted Amie, called her, and left her voice messages.
I have so much I need to say. Please give me a chance to just say it so I can have said it, please. Please.
So much so that Amie had to not only block Gareth, but she changed her number. And that seemed to work for many years. They had no other interactions. He didn't get a burner phone or a fake phone number and try to text Amie or continue to contact her after that had ended. So it worked out. However, about a month before Amie's murder, they ran into each other at a red carpet event for XBiz Awards, which was a type of adult industry award, and because Amie had ties to the adult industry, she was invited, and because Gareth had been a photographer before, he was invited. I don't know that either knew that they were going to be there, because that may have changed things if it did, but at the event, of course, they ran into each other, and Gareth is heard by many people making comments to Amie. One of the comments being that you ruined my life. Not long after that event, Gareth gets Amie's phone number. Now, he claims he got the phone number online, and we don't really know how that happened. We don't know how her phone number was online, what website, or did someone message it to him. That part is not sure, but he does get Amie's new number. And very quickly, he begins to text her and call her and leave her voicemails again, on such a pattern that she ultimately blocks him again. And this is what investigators think was the triggering event, that he was blocked again, that he was jealous, and if he couldn't have Amie, nobody could. And so that is when we believe that Gareth began to formulate this plan to attack her. So when Gareth was arrested, he was charged with breaking and entering and lying in wait and Amie's murder. Like I said, he was put on a $2 million bond, and he actually bonded out. I don't know about you, but I don't have $2 million lying around if I ever had that kind of bond. And I don't know that I would have friends or family or anybody that would be able to raise that kind of money and bond out. But he did. However, he was rearrested several days later, and this time there was no bail. Because the COVID pandemic had begun, and that changed the way in which our world worked, that changed how the court system worked, and having in-person trials and all of those things, that actually caused some delays to this trial. The trial for this case did not begin until April 29th of 2023. And it didn't really take a significant amount of time for the trial to go on. It only took about a month. And then when it concluded, jurors only needed to deliberate for 2 days. At the trial, they heard evidence with the pictures of the syringe. They heard voicemails that Gareth had left for Amie. They'd seen text messages he had sent that really made this a compelling case that Gareth had done this out of jealousy because he couldn't have Amie. And when the jury returned their verdict, they returned a verdict of guilty of Amie's murder and first-degree burglary. And then on December 6, 2023, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, unfortunately, Amie's life was cut short here, and she had such a huge life left to live. She was going to continue to do so many great things for the adult industry and just the world in general, and it is very tragic that this happened. What do you think about this case and some of the events that took place in it? Let us know your thoughts about it in the comments below.